Are you a fan of Elon Musk?
So we should maybe shut up and just not saying anything for a while, you know. Like this guy is doing now.
Yes, you prepare everything for her.
Yeah, I really, it was a real plan, you know.
Real life plan. Super, awesome. I mean, young people say, new buy.
New buy.
New buy. I know in China, your name represents a pioneer. I remember when your first time in China, Tiananmen Square, having a big concert, I was a student in the dance class. Yes, dance school, yes. And that time, of course, no one Western artist, musician have such a big scale performance in China. You are the first one, of course. For Chinese, it's big things, big revolution things. And also we know that your last year, the French president come to China, visited again. And for China, we look, Monsieur Jean-Michel Jarre is like the modern cultural example for Chinese young artists. Yeah, and of course, after so many big success in China, and Chinese people thinking you are the master of electric music, the master, the giant of electric music. But now, for the Chinese young people, they rather, of course, they're cheering off your music, but they'd rather say something because they want to connect with us, connecting. They said the husband of Gong Li. You take that.
Yes, actually, it's really strange because I had, as you said, and thank you for your nice words. I've been the first Western musician to play in China a long time ago, and it was like for me like playing on the moon because actually for so long, I mean, China was not aware of what was going on in the West.
Exactly.
I like all sorts of music, but yours is particular. I like your style.
And does they know any musician, Western musicians, like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles?
你还知道其他的西方现代音乐家吗？
那就不太清楚。
No, I don't really know anything about it.
And then I came back a few times, and also the big honor more recently to play in Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square, as you said. And I always wondered what was this mysterious link I have with China. And then I understood why, the reason why when I met my wife, Gong Li.
It takes so long.
It was a kind of pilgrimage.
So you went to the Forbidden City, then eventually you're going to marry to China Queen of the cinema.
That's right.
Okay, that's make link. That's good link.
That's right. This is the link.
That's very link. So that's the question exactly answered me. I was thinking after 1981, you have such a big success in China. What's the link? Then you answered perfect. So thank you for Gong Li.
Yes.
We should thank you, Jean-Michel, or thank you for Gong Li. I think
no, I think that you said also something important, that we had the big honor to accompany the President Macron twice in China for the state visit of the French president in China, and also to be invited to the state dinner in France when President Xi Jinping was
we saw all the media report. Yes.
And I think that is probably also the fact that we represent somehow a kind of link, artistic link, a cultural link, Gong Li and myself, between our both countries, between China and France.
Very strong link. Very strong link. Then actually, did you ever ask Gong Li a private question? When you played the music in 1981, where is she that time?
She was a student, yes,
in the
exactly.
China Theatre Academy. That's why
right.
I was in the military dance academy.
Exactly.
We are both in the study.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
In that time, she have no idea one day she'll become your wife. You'll become a couple.
No, I don't think so.
But after China, after 5 excellent, successful performance, and of course, just like you said before, Chinese said you are the giant master of electric music. And after this performance, come back from China, come back to France, the career changing you, or you have to make some difference?
I think that, I've always been a big admirer of Chinese culture, and especially these days where we have so much to share with, and especially with the young generation.
Yeah.
I mean, so advanced and so curious about technology, about the future, about innovation, and I've always been in my life as an artist and as a human being curious.
Yes.
Curiosity always drove me in my life, and I must say that each time now recently I'm going to China, I'm always impressed how creative and innovative China is.
People.
And especially this artificial intelligence
Yes.
and all new technologies such as VR, virtual reality, and all these new mode of expressions for us artists.
This is very good. But now the new more technologies coming, like tons of coming to the music industry. For you, as an artist, do you feel like a excitement, or you feel like it's a threat to the AI music, this kind of spark?
Yeah, I mean, nobody should be scared by technology. Technology is neutral, and the earlier we embrace it,
Yes.
we understand it, the better we can explore it, exploiting it,
Yes.
and also understanding the potential negative effects. But for me, for instance, if we take AI for me is a fantastic opportunity to enlarge and widen my imagination. So I would say that AI, instead of everybody's talking about AI, about artificial intelligence, I would rather say, for me, AI is more augmented imagination.
That's good. That's good point of view about this. And for the moment, you're doing any new music with connecting with AI technology?
Yes, I have lots of projects. I'm starting a series of concerts in Europe. I was not intending to do any concerts this year, but more a world tour, including China, probably also next year. But they proposed me to play Pompeii and Venice, the Piazza San Marco.
Beautiful.
So I couldn't resist.
Of
So I said
course,
yes,
of
and then I
yes.
do a series of concerts, and I also are participating in the Biennale of Venice Biennale of Art, and I have also an exhibition about AI in Milano. So it's a kind of Italian season for me before going back to China, where I think that I hope that I would dream to do a big concert again in China, probably maybe in Shanghai or Shenzhen or Beijing.
Shenzhen is very active.
Yes,
Shenzhen.
very active.
And Chengdu.
Yes,
Another
absolutely,
city, the middle of
absolutely.
China, Chengdu, Dongyi city.
Absolutely. These are the cities I really would like to
Exactly.
to visit and to perform.
Yes, for me as a Chinese, I'm living in Shanghai, but I think Chengdu, and I go Chengdu, the energy, the vibrations, the young energy, brilliant.
Absolutely, and on a Western point of view, I think it's very important also to promote and to explain the idea that in Chengdu or Shenzhen or Shanghai, I mean, at the moment, so many things are happening on a cultural level, innovation level, and we have lots of things to exchange.
Yes. I remember that time we love any movement story from you from China. After your first time coming to China, you're coming back with a motorbike, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Did you bring back to France?
Yes, actually, I fell in love with. I was crazy about motorbikes.
Yes.
I know that you interviewed Brad Pitt some time ago, and he's also a big collector of motorbikes.
Exactly.
And then I love this kind of the motorbike of the police, the Chinese police in those days.
Three-seaters.
The three-seaters.
Yes.
And then I said I really would like to bring back one of these motorbikes. Of course, it was very difficult. Yes. And I remember that on my last concert. After my last concert in Shanghai, somebody came from it was the one of chief of police of the Shanghai, somebody, and came to the French embassy where I was, and with a motorbike, and he said, "This is a present from the city of Shanghai," and then I brought back. With the help of Air France, I brought back this motorbike, and the funny story about it is actually you need a plate, of course, to drive in Paris. And at that time, I was just outside Paris, at the mayor office where you deliver the paper for the plate. Nobody was able to translate the paper in Chinese. So he said, okay, we give you a paper, you're allowed to drive without plate until somebody is able to translate in Chinese. So for 3 or 4 years, I was driving the motorbike, and the people of the police inside, they knew about the story. I would just say hello with no plate. So I drove this Chinese motorbike with no plate for 3 or 4 years until somebody was able to translate.
This is a beautiful story. Driving motorbike with a plate for 3-4 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is connecting with your music also. Free flow.
Exactly.
Free flow. That's
exactly.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the childhood. We know your father also a great composer, musician for
Yes.
film.
Yes, absolutely.
Your life really linked with the film, huh? Movies.
Yes, he actually, yes. I also thought that the music and visuals are really linked. I always thought, my father, as you said, was very known as a great soundtrack composer.
Yes.
And I always thought that I refused lots of soundtracks because I thought it was my father's territory,
Exactly.
by respect.
I don't want to touch that part.
Yeah, but at the same time, I always considered that my music is the soundtrack of the people listening to my music, of the soundtrack of the story or the film that people can imagine listening to my music. So in a sense, I always had a big connection between the visuals and music. And also, as you know, I've always been involved heavily in my concerts, taking lots of importance to the visual side.
Yes.
All my concerts, also I conceive the scenography, the stage design.
Yes.
And again, for this year, I'm proposing to in Pompeii, Venice, and all different countries also in Europe for this year. Very interesting stage design, very innovative, involving AI a lot.
Yes,
actually.
I'm sure for your music and for your performance, I know the imagination of an audience and also the visual effect is very important, all coming together. But for your life, you're also facing your life as a whole combined with all the visual effect, the imagination part of your life.
It's a very interesting point because when I was a student, I was really influenced and interested by Chinese opera and also Italian opera, and saying, okay, why these great musicians sometimes they want to work with carpenters, with designers, with people doing costumes to actually. Creating a kind of bridge between what you hear and what you see. And I use the technology of my time, lights, video, lasers, to follow this kind of tradition in a sense.
Yes. But from family, when you're growing up, father's influence more or mom's influence more? Which side more?
Actually, my parents split up at a very early age when I was 5, and my father went to America, so I didn't have really contact with him. Okay. The really father figure was my grandfather. My grandfather was an amazing person. He was an amateur musician playing the oboe, but he was also an engineer, an inventor. He created one of the first mixing desk for radio station, and also the ancestor of the iPod, the first portable turntable where you could go to picnic, listen to some vinyls of Edith Piaf or Chet Baker. So he got a major influence on me to create this link between music and technology.
Beautiful. For me, as a mother of 3, I think when the children are growing up, I think a male image is very important in the family. If the father cannot do the job, as grandparents replace that, why not? But still the children growing up very healthy.
Absolutely. And my mom has been a great person. She was a great figure in the French Resistance during the war.
That's what I want.
And she really balanced her education to me between actually having the mother figure, but also being strict and having the father figure to replace both images. So she's been, and I thank her for that.
That's answer my question, because I want to answer the question, but that's why the revolutionary, the spirit has come from mom. That's what you put in your music.
I think so.
I think that's a big link, yes.
I never thought about that, but I think you're probably right.
Yes, must go different way, there's things.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the children grown up, did you communicate a lot, or most of the day they really find their own directions?
I think I have a very simple principle of education. Is actually to consider that when the children are young and just in their childhood, they can be free, absolutely free, in a very strict frame, and that frame is very strict. And when they grow up with time, you just enlarge the frame, but you still keep this frame. And I think it's a very basic principle. I think it's it's quite a good one.
Yes,
I think.
I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Because for each of my 3 children, I think when they become a young child and teenager, become that they really enter the real world. As a parent's responsibility, we just give you space. But after 18, you can stand on your own feet. Then you can take a responsibility.
Absolutely.
Then become an adult.
Absolutely.
But before that, let them free. No. They don't know the world. They don't know the limitations. But if your parents, you don't give the limitations, who give that? And you blame on the society.
Absolutely.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a lot of parents got the wrong idea. Oh, no, society take a responsibility. No. Some responsibility, society take it.
Absolutely.
But before the 18th, the parenting.
Yeah.
What is that? That's, I say, if you don't have that responsibility, don't get the children.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to take a responsibility. It's nobody blame on you.
Absolutely.
But you have fun, you have the kids, and it's okay, society taking care of us. I said, bullshit. I said, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but of course, you are a big charmer for all the females, women, charming, your music, your talent, everything. But for you, I know you write some songs for the women, everything. But for you, when one of your songs, Le Mot Bleu.
Yes.
Le Mot Bleu. You think in the relationship, between the love relationship, silence, sometimes without the words, much more meaningful or speak out more?
It's so important question that, in China, we used to say, a musician used to say that what's the most important thing in music are the silence between notes.
Yes.
And I think silence is sometimes more important than language. Yeah. Sometimes you see some old couples in the countryside and they don't talk to each other. And you say, they're not bored. Mm-hmm. They don't need language, they don't need words to communicate.
So the breathing, they connected.
And what you're referring to about this Les Mots Bleus, this song, is actually the fact of the idea was to write a love song without using the word love, and also expressing this idea that to express love or to express any kind of emotions, you don't necessarily need feeling words.
Yes.
And silence sometimes are more important than words. So we should maybe shut up and just not saying anything for a while,
Let the question come down. And another song also, Where's the Woman? I'm always saying this question. We are living in a modern society today. You think the gender equality is getting progressed or stay the same or maybe change a little bit? But
I think it has changed a lot in recently and everywhere in China, all over the world, in France. I think now. Probably also because of the fact that you are more with the social media, with people are more informed. And I think that of course there is we don't know what was going on 1 or 2 centuries ago. Of course, we were not there, but from what we know, of course, the balance, the relationship between and the way we perceive men and women has evolved in the right sense, even if we still have lots of progress and improvement to make.
Yes, but if when you hire somebody, you're looking for the ability quality or looking for the gender?
No, I don't.
You don't have that issue.
I don't have that issue, and also having been educated by women, by my mom. I mean, at a very early stage, for me that never been a kind of an issue at all for me.
Okay, that's good. And 1983, your auction won for only the album, the music for supermarket.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That one, when you do that, just demonstrating and express your attitude, turning to the intellectual properties, or you cannot make a copy of. What's the motivation behind this auction? This one.
Actually, it was really a kind of symbolic gesture of as an activist against the fact that suddenly. We were starting to, in days of CDs, we were starting to sell music as yogurt or then toothpaste, and questioning the value of the creative process and the value of intellectual property, as we know, and that was the beginning in those days. So I said, okay, we should consider an album like a painting, and I said, okay, my next album will be sold like a painting. just only one copy, and we burnt the tapes and everything as a symbolic gesture for celebrating the value of music.
Yes, that's a very good movement. That's a very, very strong statement. And also now these days, I don't know, from the Western and Eastern, the intellectual property issue always the topic of talk. For you, you think that in your area, the intellectual property issue is still the big issue to talk about it?
Oh, absolutely, more than ever with AI. Yeah. I think I've been president of CISAC, which is an international confederation of Society of Authors' Rights and Creators' Rights. Actually, we opened an office of CISAC in Beijing a few years ago because China, for China, IP, intellectual property, became really an issue because today China is the country who is creating the most, the biggest number of patents. Yes. So it's intellectual property. It's a worldwide issue and worldwide concern, and with AI, of course, this is going to be even a new challenge to try to respect the value of creative content. When you think that, you know, AI these days, without the creative content, the AI would harvest just the words of the dictionary. Yes. So the value or the valorization of any company doing AI and creating this algorithm are depending on our content. So of course, in the digital cake 3.0 of these days, we deserve a part of that. Yes. So we should sit down with these new companies and being considered as real partners. Yes. I think the notion of authors' rights, the way it was the past 2 centuries, has to evolve because AI is different from anything else. The fact that the fact that they are going to use our content, your content, his content behind the camera, or my content. Yes. So it's something that we have to think about and we have to organize. And you know, I would like to say that you know, a lot of people are thinking that rules are affecting freedom. It's exactly the reverse. It's because we have a driving license that we can drive safely, and not the reverse. So actually, AI today, for instance, is still the Wild West and Far West, and it needs rules. And for that, I think China, Europe, and France especially, we have lots to do to work together on these issues.
Yes, that's a very excellent answer for the professional musician, you know, who had tons of wonderful experience with music industry. I think that's a lot of young people today. If you're really into the AI music, fine. The innovation always, you know, cheering for. But I think just Jean-Michel Jarre just answered that question was like meaningful. I think young people should be listening to that. And also, I want to see that how, as an individual person, I know Frenchmen looking after themselves very well, but you're looking super. How you maintain your lifestyle? Drinking less, smoke less, or move more?
I never smoke, so that it may be, but I think it's mainly genetic.
Genetic.
My mom, my dad also. My mom passed away at 96, but she could I think go until 100 probably because she just died in her sleep, but in very good health, and she looked like not a teenager, but like much younger than her age. So I think it's really genetic.
Back in China, when you photo and Gong Li's photo on the media, everybody's like, my goodness, how he can keep so good, you know, appearance, beautiful. You're very healthy. That's the most important. Very healthy.
Yes, and also I'm doing regularly a bit of exercise. And also in Chinese way. So it's a mixture of French and Chinese way.
Okay, that was a style before met Gong Li or after met Gong Li?
No, it was before.
Okay, you prepare everything for her.
Yeah. I really, it was a real plan, you know.
Real life plan, good plan. Bravo.
Life plan starting a long time ago by playing music in Beijing and Shanghai a long time ago.
That time I played in the Forbidden City. One day I bring the Queen of China come back. Okay, good. Which first Gong Li's film you saw?
I think it was the Red Lantern.
Red Lantern.
Red Lantern.
What's your favorite?
One of my favorite one should be Coming Home. Coming Home is a fantastic movie.
With Chen Daoming. The film. Zhang Yimou directed.
Yes. And it's a fantastic. And when we are talking about silence, she speaks very almost not. She's almost silent,
Yes, no,
and it's amazing movie. But you know, she has a very unique, like a great artist. I mean, she doesn't, and great actress or actors or actresses. She doesn't need to speak on her screen. I mean, just the way she is quite moving and touching and very strong.
Yes, one day I was talking to Juliette Binoche. You know, when she came to Shanghai, we met. Then I said, in this world, I have so many stars, but for me, not that many, you know, can call the actress.
Absolutely.
So that's why I said Gong Li. So I can call. She's the actress.
Absolutely.
She's not a star. No, she's an actress.
Yes.
Actress
and an artist.
Artist and actress. You can really, you know, use all the knowledge and the performance to convince the people instead of, you know, all the media things. No, that's I. But the first, how if you use one word to describe Gong Li, what's the word you use? Sorry, I'm asking too much about the Gong Li because there's so much link with us.
Yes. No. I would say on a professional point of view,
Yes.
I would say she's a great artist.
Yes.
I mean, everything she touches, it could be a painting or cooking or any kind of a creative process. I mean, she's always absolutely precise in the way she could be an excellent director, for instance. She doesn't want to direct any movie because and say, but you should do a movie. She's not really interested. But actually, if she takes a smartphone and doing just a shot like this guy is doing now in front of us, I mean, he will do exactly like this. So starting this and each time she's filming something, you have a beginning and an end. It's quite, as we know, using smartphone every day for selfie, I think it's quite difficult. So she has that kind of unique ability, I think.
For two great artists, one is from France, one is from China, great artists, I don't say it's a musician or actors, great artists together, I'm sure you have a lot of common in different level. But for the fundamental basic lifestyle, do you, French and China, you have some cultural clash sometimes?
No, I must say no. I mean, it's maybe because of the Silk Road link, maybe.
Yeah, that's good one. That's good one. After you know China so well, you visit China, you know the Chinese culture. But what did you see this year? Last year you go back China again with President Macron, you know, go together. What's the major change surprise you for China after from 1980 until now? What's the major change?
Of course, it's this kind of, I would say, this kind of quest for innovation, this curiosity, the fact that people are able to work together to create something in a collective way. It's something which is much less than a cliche that we could say about China, because think people, okay, we have a lot of people in China, so people are used to work together and all that. No. It's this idea of the team spirit. Is for me something that we should really be influenced by this Chinese way of thinking and way of life more in Europe, where we are more individuals maybe, and sometimes, you know, as one French philosopher used to say, I mean, on your own you go faster, but all together you go further.
Yes, that's good sense. Yes. I think I'm Chinese. I know how the groupness was important for China. Of course, we highly respect individuality, but the grouping together, because it's a massive country, massive populations, must be going together. Can we have some little water?
Yes,
please?
thank you.
Thank you.
And it's true that I was recently in Shenzhen. You were mentioning Shenzhen. Yes. And I was absolutely amazed by the level of innovation, the energy, and the fact of creating this idea that China is a very old country, like in Europe, like France, but also there is also a kind of freshness and innocence in the Chinese youth, I felt.
Yes.
And this idea of a certain kind of innocence and curiosity, which is very refreshing.
I think curiosity is driving an individual person or even the country, the culture going forward.
Yes,
you know, without curiosity, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I think you are the person for a long time ago, through your profession, through your music, you're really embracing the modern technology innovations. Then that's bring my next question. This question I want to ask last interview, but I want to bring now. Are you a fan of Elon Musk? You don't need the answer. If you don't need the answer, give me an answer.
Apart from politics,
Yes.
if you take this man just as an inventor
Yes.
and creator, is quite
amazing.
of course quite amazing,
Yeah.
and is part of this kind of genius who are contributing to change the world.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean, by what he has created, and you know, this is in a sense an answer to the people who are afraid to AI. You know, you will always have an Elon Musk or Confucius or
somebody.
Miles Davis or an Edith Piaf.
Yes.
You know, because the singularity
Yes.
is of a human being makes the difference, and this is what we could admire to Elon Musk. Of
I agree
course.
with you. In the professional sense, whatever he had vision on the change in the world. This point of view, I really, bravo. I will give
Yes,
him
and as
not the politicians.
as all genius, they're all crazy.
Oh, yeah, you
So
need a
he's
crazy to become a
also
genius.
crazy.
Yeah,
Also.
exactly. China nowadays they have so many interesting words created by the young people. We say that internet words.
Yeah.
People used to. I'm sure French young people do that on the internet. But today I want to teach you one word for you as suitable. You have to. Then you talk to Gong Li. So I learned from Jin Xing.
Yes.
The pronunciation is new by.
New buy.
Yeah.
New buy.
But you must be with a thumb up.
New buy.
New by. Yeah,
New buy.
exactly.
New buy.
Yeah, that means
New buy.
you are in English it's like awesome, formidable, c'est génial. But c'est génial, formidable for young people to
Super, would you say?
Super, awesome. Young people say new buy.
New buy.
New buy. That's a person like you. Just remember these words. Okay?
Yeah, we absolutely.
Next time I ask
absolutely.
the pronunciation.
New buy.
One more question. You don't need to answer me. This is out of myself. Because do you have children?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
How old are they now?
Oh, now they're quite adults. They have even some grandchildren.
Oh, really?
Yes, exactly.
Compliment.
Thank you.
Wow. You're close with your
Very,
children.
very much so. Yes, yeah, very much so.
Beautiful.
And the youngest boy is a magician,
Fantastic.
and a great magician. Also. And the daughter is more in visual arts and graphics, and the third one is living in London and more into movie industry.
Okay, 3 kids, 3 enfants.
What's exactly?
Moi aussi, 3 enfants. Oui,
Good.
Oui, très bien, très bien. So, when you performance in Italy, which day? I would love to be there.
That would be a big pleasure. You're more than welcome. Oslo, Helsinki, Poland, Brussels, Seville, Stuttgart. I'm not playing France or UK or China this year because I'm planning to do a world tour next year.
Next year, I remember that. I will be there.
It's one. You're more than welcome. It's one of my dreams to play San Marco Piazza for a long time, and of course Pompeii. And it's a very, very special project.
Yes.
Very, very innovative, I think.
Yes, it's good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Jean-Michel.
Thank you.
Finally, we met. Finally, we talk.
Absolutely.
I think we have a much more opportunity about this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And I hope to see you soon again.
And it's my big hug to Gong Li.
Okay.
One day we all both in Paris. We need to sit down, have dinner together.
Absolutely, we'll do.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.